Hi guys, welcome back to another Drift and Loop crochet vlog and market recap. So I do have a couple of markets to go over from the weekend where I did Nagambie market on Saturday and I did the Mooroopna market on Sunday. But before I jump into the recaps, I actually just want to go back to where I was in the last vlog where I was discussing my plushies and whether or not I'm selling the right plushies or making the right plushies for the audience and the rural type of audience that I have out here in the Shepparton region. And so what I sort of started doing last week was going more into, that cozy cottage country type theme where I made Goldie the goose and Cookie the chicken, and my Longhorn cow as well that I was working on. And so when I finished the vlog last week, that was on Thursday, and I was still thinking about, meeting my audience with where they are, meeting my audience with what their interests are, what their hobbies are, what they do all the time, and also thinking about Father's Day and, just trying to combine all of that together. And so then I had an idea. I thought, right, let's really meet these people, or let's really meet people with where they're at, with the one thing that I know, I would say 95% of the adult population that I know that they actually do and are interested in, and that their life revolves around. And so that led to me creating these guys. So we have Barry the beer. So we've got Barry Senior and we have Barry Junior. So on the Thursday night, I got Barry Senior made, and then on Friday, I made a couple of my Barry Juniors. And what I also did was I made a sign up for them, which when I put the market recap up, the videos of that, you'll actually see the sign in that. I do know that some of you have already seen all of this on Instagram if you're following me on there. But basically, I've aimed these at Father's Day, and just saying, a great gift for Dad. But essentially, it doesn't matter whether it's Father's Day or not. Apparently people love a beer. And these guys, I did sell one to Katrina, who is a follower on here. She's in Shepparton and owns the Emporium in there. And Katrina did come and visit me at Mooroopna on Sunday, and she bought a Barry Junior. But these guys were just great talking points, which was also my other reason for having them. Barry Senior may not sell, but he gets people to stop because he's just so different to what's in other crochet stalls. They get people to smile, and then once they've got that attention, you then see people actually start to glance inside the stall, and that might actually bring them in and get them looking at what the rest of my products are. So these guys, I will make a few more of them. They will be going to my next market, which at this stage will be August the 29th. It's an all-day market in at the marketplace in Shepparton, which is the weekend before Father's Day. So I will make a few more and have them in there for sale for Father's Day as well. But, everyone loves a beer. I did have one bloke say to me, he said, if you made a long neck, he said, I'd buy a long neck. He said, but yeah, don't really want the pot. So that's cool. I might make a long neck, I may not. So that's sort of, where I'm heading. It's also a little bit more whimsical. Oh, here comes Shadow. Shadow thought she'd come and join the vlog. Yeah, it's just a little bit whimsical and, yeah, meeting people with where their interests are. Here she is. There's our little girl. Can you see yourself on there? She's got she's a little bit cranky with me because I was teasing her earlier up on the hay bales, and I jumped out and scared her, and she doesn't like to be scared. She likes to be the one who scares me. She likes to, at night, when I come outside, if I haven't got the lights on, she will actually see me and she stalks me, and then she runs at me from behind and jumps up my leg, and it's like this big rah. A couple of times she has nearly got a squeal out of me, but it's not so funny when I do it back to her, apparently. So while we're on plushies, I did just want to show you this because I have finished him. Oh, he nearly doesn't fit in my camera. I am so in love with this little Longhorn. He is just phenomenal. And actually, he's not that little. I do have the measurements written down. So he's just come up so, so good. He's so gorgeous. I'll show you a close-up of his face. There we go. I will definitely be making more of these. I really enjoyed making them. It's not that hard. They're actually not that difficult to make. So a really, really, really good pattern, easy to understand. And for what it is, it's actually relatively quick to make as well. But to give you an idea of the sizing, because I did write it down somewhere. I was doing yesterday, I was taking photos of my plushies and getting them up on Etsy. I'm yet to get them up onto my website, but basically getting them up online to just have them there to try and drive some sales, or, you know, when people do go looking. I have noticed since probably in the last week, I'm starting to get a lot more views on my Etsy store. So the measurements of my Longhorn, so he is 23 centimeters high, which is to the top of the horns. He is 25 centimeters long, so from one tip to the tail. Sorry, you can't see that. From his nose to the tail. And he is 18 centimeters wide, which is essentially from this horn out to this horn. So it's a decent sized plushie. But yeah, I'm pretty much in love. And I did show him, we had one of our friends come and visit the other day, and I was like, oh, Patty, you've got to see what I've made. And I pulled this guy out, and Patty just looked at it and he's like, let me take a photo. He said, because I reckon I will have a sale on this for you straight away. So I have a sneaking suspicion that it is Vicky, Patty's wife, who will want this little guy. But you know, that's okay. He may not make it to market, but another one will. I'll soon make another one. So that is the Longhorn. So let's jump into the market recap. So like I said, on Saturday, we went down to Nagambie, to the market that's down there. It was an early start, so they do bump in, bump out times. And we had a 6:30 bump in, and you literally have half an hour where your car can be parked really close to your site to get everything out, and then your car needs to go, it's probably about half a block down the road, and get parked. So yeah, we had from 6:30 until 7 o'clock, and the market didn't start until 9 o'clock. Normally I wouldn't be able to market that early. When it's a 9 o'clock start, I wouldn't be turning up at 6:30. Anyway, that's the time that we had. And it was so cold. Like, I was having a giggle to myself. I was watching, I'm going to get the name wrong, but it's Kim anyway. Let me come back. I will put the name on the screen of another YouTube channel. I was watching one of her market recaps last night, and I was laughing because she's up in Sydney, and she was like, oh, it's so cold. It's 6 degrees this morning. And I'm like, oh, that's not cold. Cold is heading down to Nagambie at, I think we left here at 5:45, 5:30, 5:45, and it was -1 degree. It got down to -2. It was cold. It was so cold. And then the sun did come out. It was an absolutely beautiful day. But, you know, it was a long 3 hours before the sun came out. And because we were there so early, I had my stall set up, and then quite literally, you've got nothing to do. So you're kind of just standing around, sitting around in the cold, just getting even more frozen. So Nagambie was a really different market to any of the others that I've done. Like, every market that I do is just so different. So Nagambie felt, how would I put it? The stalls that were at Nagambie felt a little bit more premium, shall we say. like at Mooroopna, the market that I've been doing there, it's the flea market. So it's people bringing in stuff from their house that they want to get rid of for whatever reason. And, you know, so things are priced at $1, $2, $5. It's a flea market. And then at like Cobram, Cobram was a step up, but it still felt more crafty, I would say, the Cobram market. Whereas Nagambie, yeah, it like the guy next door to us, his stall, he was a woodworker. And his products were beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But like the prices on them, I mean, I'm talking like $160 for a Lazy Susan. Chopping boards were $100. Like, it was pricey. It was exy, really. So that was kind of the quality that's at Nagambie. And then it was a lot busier than the other markets that we'd been at, but still most people were just tire kickers. They were just coming in and browsing. But having said that, we still actually had a few sales, and I'm going to put our figures up here beside me. But for the day, I did a total of, what did I do? $145. So that's not too bad. You know, I did, what was it, 197 at Mooroopna, the whole $47 at Murchison, and then the week before at Cobram, I think it was $140 as well. So that's okay. But what was interesting was actually the products that I sold. So at Nagambie, I actually sold 2 of the mystery bags. I sold my brown snake, that's the swirly snake pattern. And that was so cute. The girl that bought him, so I said, oh, would you like a bag for that? And she's like, no, that's fine. And as she walked off, we watched her, and all she did was wrap the snake around her hand. She had his head up here, and she's just walked around the market with the snake wrapped around her arm. It was really, really cute to watch. I actually sold one of my penguins. I sold the green penguin as per normal. A couple of chooks went as well. And then I just sold one of the $15 pink and white octos, one of the small octos that I do. So, you know, the penguin was the first one that I've sold. The mystery bags, they were the first mystery bags that I've sold as well. The snake hadn't sold. I hadn't sold any snakes since Mooroopna at the very first market there a month ago. So, you know, there's no pattern, there's no rhyme nor reason as to what products are selling at markets, basically. So I'm going to run through the figures for Nagambie market. So the site fee was $35. For the travel, I've actually put $20 down. Nagambie's probably just over 70 Ks from where we are here. And then the wages are $210. So that for the day comes to a loss, yet again, surprise, surprise, woohoo, of $120 for the day. So, you know, not too bad. And then my running total. So that brings my total sales up across all the markets, which that was, what, 1, 2, 3, that was the 4th market. Brought my total sales up to $529. My total expenses were a very nice, neat and tidy $1,000, which gives me a total of a loss of $471. That's okay. That number's growing. That's you know, that's pretty healthy. That sorry, I just kicked the camera. That $471. So then we got home from Nagambie, I think it was about 2:30 or something like that. Wicco was heading to the football, so I dropped him at the footy, and I came home and did a bit of crocheting because I don't think I'd really replaced much stock after Cobram. I didn't sell a lot up there, but I just crocheted a couple of chooks. I crocheted some penguins, and that was about it. By then I was buggered. It had been a long enough day. And so I think I ended up, Shadow and I just jumped into bed and went to sleep. Because, yeah, we had to be up bright and early the next morning to go to Mooroopna. And Mooroopna's an indoor market rather than an outdoor market, and it was a little bit warmer on Sunday morning. So we got there about 7 o'clock, got everything set up. I did have the 2 tables and I was in a different location. If you've watched my vlogs, you would have seen I mentioned I didn't like the spot that I had in the first market at Mooroopna because I was on a corner and it made my stall feel disjointed. So where I was put, I actually had my 2 tables side by side running long ways, and so I had just one big long stall, and honestly for my products and my setup that just works so much better. I can actually bring the eye in at either end. I put my eye catching pieces at either end, and actually while I'm talking about this I'll roll the footage of Mooroopna market so you can actually see what I'm talking about. So at either end I have my eye-catching pieces. So at one end I had Barry the Beer, and straight behind him I had Cookie the Chook, and I've got Goldie the Goose, and then that kind of led you down through my stall. And at the other end I've got, you know, the things that have been big sellers for me, which are my dishcloths and my kittens and all of that. You know, the dishcloths just kind of being up high on the stand attract the eye as well and bring people in. And so that kind of draws everyone into the middle of my stall, basically. Or at least that's the logic behind it. That's why I set it up that way. We'll go with that. Excuse me. So Sunday was actually a really different type of day. And you could feel it early on. It was a lot busier than any of the markets that I've been to. And the people that were coming through, they actually had energy. The room or the hall was actually quite noisy. There were times when it was like, wow, I can't even hear myself think. People sounded really happy. It actually sounded like spring, which might sound like a really weird thing to say, but like in spring all the animals are happy and the birds are chattering and it feels alive. And that's actually how it felt with the people coming in on Sunday. And that actually translated directly into my sales, because on Sunday I actually had my best market day ever so far, and I sold a total of $275 worth of stock, which blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. You know, I didn't go into Mooroopna with any expectations, even though I'd been there before. I treat every day every market as an individual, and I just don't place any expectations. That way you can't get disappointed. And again, it was a real eclectic mix of what sold. So the first sales were my spider and one of the Highland cows. And then a lady came along, she bought one of my little turtles. You know, those turtles, no one's looked at the turtles in all of my markets. Like, this is the 5th market and no one's paid them the time of day. She walked over, saw the turtle, took it. Same with this next product. I sold one of my big Riff the Octopus. And again, people hadn't even been paying attention to them. Even though they're sitting up, you know, at eye level, there was never any comments about them. And this young kid just walked up, he saw them, he grabbed one, and he actually bought it as a gift for his mother. He wanted to surprise her. She was obviously there at the market. So she walked past with Rift and she was like, oh, look what my son bought me. This is so gorgeous. You know, I was starting to think that my octopuses really didn't need to come out and I could replace them with something else that might interest people. But who knows? I also sold another black cat. I sold one of my little black and white chunky cows. I sold a Barry Jr. And then I sold another 2 of those little turtles. So all of a sudden on the one day, 3 turtles have sold. After 5 weeks of 5 different markets, the turtles moved. It's bizarre. Of course, another one of the chooks walked out. Like, I can pretty much guarantee that I'm going to sell at least 1 chook every market. A couple of keychains, and I also sold, as my very last sale, I was actually packing up. I had most of the plushies put away, and this lady came along. She's like, oh, you had a goose. I saw a goose that was here. And she was talking about Goldie the goose. So I did have Goldie put away. I pulled her out, and And she said, oh, how much did you have on her? And I said, look, I had 35 on her. I said, but it's the end of the day, because I kind of just saw her face when I said 35. I said, look, it's the end of the day. I'm packing up. If you want Goldie, I'm happy to, I'll drop it down to $30 because I just really wanted to make the sale. I wanted Goldie to shift. And she said, yep, sold, done. And then she turned to her daughter and she said, well, I thought, it was going to be all my money gone. She said, did you want to get a keychain? And so the daughter bought a keychain for $15. So, I may have lost $5 on Goldie, but then I picked up the extra sale in the keychain. So, I was stoked. $275. Like, that's awesome. So again, I'm going to put the figures up here for my day at Mooroopna. So my site fee, because I had 2 tables, was $30. So Mooroopna charged $15 a table. So we have $30 for my stall. My travel is $15. My wages were $195. So that gives me a total of all my expenses were $240, which, guys, you know what that means? For the first time ever, woo, 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 I made a whole $35 profit. Look at that. Look at this little money baron bloody business chick go. I'm, $35. Anyway, I'm about to burst that bubble because I actually made no profit whatsoever. And I'll tell you why, because this just occurred to me when I was driving home and I was like doing the same thing. I'm like, I made a profit. I was so excited. And I haven't bothered telling Rico that I didn't make a profit. I made a profit if all you do is take into consideration what your market costs are, which is exactly what I just did. My site fee, my travel, my wages. I don't have to price insurance into this one because Mooroopna Market cover the insurance for you, but the reason why I haven't made a profit, and this is the one thing that people forget about, we see all these reels on Instagram where people put up exactly what I just did, and this is how much money I made at the market. And they haven't, because the one thing that we all forget about is we've sold the product, but where in these figures have we just allowed for the cost of that product that we've just sold? Absolutely nowhere. And I'll tell you right now, it cost me more than $35 to make those items that I just sold at Mooroopna Market. So I'm still, I'm still operating at a loss. But if you forget about that, let's not get all businessy and all professional. No, only joking. On a market, on the face value at the market, I made a little profit there. When we look at the overall business costs for the day, I'm still running at a loss. So let's go to the overall total sales. So that brings me in a total sales for the 6 markets now of $804. My total expenses are $1,240. And for the first time ever, that bottom line has actually decreased instead of increasing. So that brings me in at a total loss of $436. So, it's a nice little win. I'm going to take every win that I get. You got to celebrate all these little things. So I'm probably not going to do a market now until the end of the month. I was thinking about doing a market this weekend at Gagari, and then I jumped on and I had a look at the weather, and they're actually saying 5 millimeters of rain, I think it is, on Saturday. And then on Sunday, which is when the market is, and it's an outdoor market, they're saying up to 30 mil of rain. And I just went, I don't need to do that. So, yeah, I don't think I might do a market maybe the weekend after. But my plan is to try and get stock made up, because on the weekend of August the 29th, August the 30th, I've got 2 markets back to back, one on the Saturday, one on the Sunday. The one on my Saturday is an all-day market. It's from 9 o'clock till 5 o'clock in the Shepparton Marketplace. And then I'm going to come home from that, turn around, and the next day on the Sunday, go back out to Mooroopna for their market. But it's not the flea market that I've just done. Mooroopna actually have 2 markets. So this is their outdoor market that they have on the last Sunday of every month. And the locals, or the local knowledge holders here who have done these markets before are telling me that that's actually a better market than the flea market, which I did have my suspicions about that. So I thought, why not? Let's throw my hat in the ring and go do that market as well. So I do want to get a little bit of stock with my Father's Day stuff just kind of made up, because I know when I finish at Shepparton Marketplace, I will not want to come home and crochet. And I really want to be able to take full advantage of Sunday also being the last weekend day before Father's Day. So guys, the other exciting and fun thing on Sunday was that I actually had my first visitors at the market. So when I was at Cobram Market, and I did mean to talk about it last week, I just got sidetracked with all my other stuff. So I'm doing it in this week's. But at Cobram Market, there were 2 other crochet stalls there. So one of the stalls, I didn't meet that lady. The other stall, Steph came over to me, introduced herself. And yeah, Steph and I just hit it off. Steph's just such a lovely, bubbly, bright, happy personality. So that is Steph's studio. She is based in Kyabram and she does markets all around here. She goes down to Wallen and up to Echuca and Moama, and she goes everywhere. So she's here on YouTube. She is also on Instagram. I'll tag her down below. So, you know, if you want to go check out her channels and just show her a bit of love, that would be great. But what I didn't know is that Steph dropped in at Mooroopna to say hello as well. She brought along Pixie, her little dog, who is just so gorgeous. And yeah, just had a quick catch up, and yeah, she's just, I like Steph's just good value. She's really good value. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Katrina also came and met me, and she bought Barry the Junior, not Barry the Junior, Junior Barry. So yeah, Katrina is also both here on YouTube and on Facebook. She's under Treens or Tree NZ, and she owns the Emporium in Shepparton. So she's very experienced, done a lot of markets in the area, kind of, you know, knows the lay of the land around here, and has just been so lovely and just, you know, offered a few words of support, a little bit of advice. She was one who said, try the other market. And, you know, she knows how much roughly you make at the markets. And she said to me, you know, Shepparton is a hard area to sell into, and that I'm doing well. And, you know, it's always really nice just to hear those words of encouragement. And, yeah, just to know that it's not you, it's not your products, it's actually, that's just how it is in the area. And Katrina, I owe you a massive apology. So I did say, sorry, I don't have your number. I did say that I would try and come into the Emporium on Tuesday. Didn't make it, obviously, because you didn't see me. But we've just had, like everyone else, we've had stuff going on in the background. So we didn't have our car Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. The mechanics rang. We've just been getting an overhaul done on the vehicle while we are basically parked up down here, and also while we have access to mechanics and people who we know, and we know that they, you know, do good work for basically the money that you pay, and that our car will be right when we drive out of here. So the car's been overhauled this week. And then on Wednesday we got the phone call, and this is one thing that you also didn't know about. I actually haven't had my caravan or our caravan in the background for the last probably 3 or 4 vlogs. As much as I'm sitting in front of a van, this is not our van. This is a mate's caravan. Our caravan's been in town again. It was only meant to go in for like 4 days and just have them do a service on it. We had a few jobs that we wanted done, but we also wanted them to go right through the van. Essentially, we haven't had anyone look at that caravan since we bought it 2.5 years ago. Again, we just haven't been in locations where there would be someone around that could do the work that we needed done. So while we were here around Shep and we know people in town, we've got the caravan done, and we finally got our caravan back yesterday. Our caravan's sitting outside there. So that ended up, it was gone for over a month. We had a water leak in it, which we knew. We had a leak that was coming in through the air conditioner. So we needed work done on that, which they've done. We also knew that there was existing water damage down in the back of the caravan, around the hot water service and all through the bathroom. And we wanted them to have a look at that for us. So, you know, they did a whole heap of work down there. We had to get the hot water service replaced. We also ended up having to have new suspension put under the caravan, which that was an unexpected cost. You know, we were expecting maybe, you know, we might have to spend about maybe $3,000 to $5,000 on the caravan when we took it in there. Let me just say it has ended up well and truly over double that amount, with all the work that has been done to it. But it is our home, you know, and doing the work on the car and the caravan is essentially the same as performing maintenance on your house. And if we don't have the work done to the car and the caravan, we can't go anywhere. So, you know, it just needed to be done. So that's sort of where everything's at. But I tell you what, I have never, ever been so happy to see our caravan. Like the one that we've been staying in, this is a mate's van, and we were very, very lucky and very fortunate that Roscoe didn't go away this year. And he said, you know, come and get my van. You guys can just stay in that as long as you need it. And that way you're not paying for accommodation on top of, you know, having to have all the work done on the van. And so this caravan is actually the same brand, the same make as our van. It's just about, I think it's about 2 or 3 years newer than what ours is. But I tell you what, it's got the new style LED lights in it, which I just hate. They are so horrible. All the splashbacks, the bench tops, the tabletop, they're all black. Like this caravan is so dark. Like during the day, I'll have the curtains open. I have to have all the lights on. And then if I'm crocheting with black yarn, I'm still struggling to see my stitches. Like it's just horrendous in there. And so yesterday when we went to pick our caravan up, I've like opened up the door, and because our caravan's really light inside, and it was like, oh my God. And I just sort of stood in the doorway and I'm like, oh my God, I've missed you so much, my baby. So we haven't moved back into our van yet. And the reason for that is because with them supposedly fixing these water leaks, and then with all this rain that's coming on the weekend, I just said to Wicco, let's leave our caravan outside for, you know, basically for this rain. Because once we get moved back into our van, it'll come back here under the shed. I said to him, so it needs to stay out in the rain, and we need to make sure that these leaks have been fixed properly that we've just paid for. Because it's pointless getting in the van and taking off and heading to wherever we're going and then hitting rain, you know, maybe in 4 months' time if we go north, and finding out that the caravan's still leaking. We can't do anything about it when we're up in Queensland. So, yeah, maybe early next week I will be back in our van. But what I am going to do is I'll probably just turn the heaters on in there, and I can still go in and just film my tutorials. There's a couple of other videos I want to film, and they need to be done in our caravan where it's a lot lighter than this caravan that's here behind me. So that's sort of where everything's at. I haven't got a lot going on crochet-wise at the moment. This week I've done very little crocheting. I've sort of had to focus back onto my podcast. The last month of doing markets, my podcasts have really taken a back seat, and I've basically just done the absolute bare minimum on them that I've needed to do. And I think last week I actually released my podcast late, which I don't like doing. So my podcasts are monetized. I do have subscribers, you know, and they are my main source of income. So my subscribers are used to, you know, getting their new episode at 7 o'clock every Monday morning. And so, yeah, they pay for it, and I don't like to be late. So this week I've just sat down and got myself ahead with a couple of my channels, because I actually have 4 different podcast channels. So I'm just sort of like getting myself back to where I'm a month ahead with content, so that, you know, I have a buffer there if anything goes wrong. So yeah, that's kind of really what I'm doing. In terms of, going back again to look at the products and things that have come out of these two markets that I just did, I don't think it's as simple as saying, are my plushies wrong? And nothing is ever that simple. I think there's a combination of factors as to why Mooroopna was a more successful market, or the most successful market that I've had so far. And one of the biggest things is actually the number of people that come through the door. And I know that I was talking to Katrina about this as well on Sunday. Guys, when we watch all these other, YouTube people, YouTube channels, and they're in the big cities or in the big towns and that, you've also just got to have a think about the actual population that's available to go to the markets. Here in these smaller towns, if you've only got a population of like 10,000 people, well, then quite clearly you're not going to have the foot traffic coming through that someone in a major city is going to have. And, quite clearly that means that you're going to have less sales and therefore less income. So that was probably one thing with Mooroopna. The foot traffic coming through the door was in greater numbers than what it was a month ago. I also think that it's what a lot of people have said to me over the last month. Winter, you don't sell much. People are normally, tucked up hibernating. We hibernate, it's winter. And now you can really feel the seasons are starting to change. Like overnight sitting around the fire, the evenings are starting to drag out. You can really feel spring is literally just around the corner. And I think that's what we experienced on Sunday at Mooroopna. Everyone's waking up, everyone's feeling good, and, people are starting to spend a little bit more money. So in terms of my actual products, how I was saying, like the turtles, for 5 markets, no one's looked at the turtles, and then all of a sudden I sold 3. That also just naturally comes with having more people come through as well. And obviously more people, a greater variety of interests and likes. And so, I think it's a case of not necessarily going, oh, this is all I'm going to stock. For me, traveling and moving through different audiences, it will be a case of, well, I guess there's 2 ways that you could go, depending on what your goals are and how you want to run your business. You can either say, right, these are the items that I like, these are what I enjoy making, and therefore this is all I'm going to stock. And if these items don't suit the audience where I am and I don't make any sales, so be it. I don't care. Or then you can almost go to the other extreme of, I'm just going to have a variety of products across a variety of themes and feels, which is essentially what I'm doing. And hopefully, there'll be something on the table that will cater to the majority of the people that are coming through the door. And that's just a personal preference on how you want to run your business. So, at the moment I'm definitely going with the variety, with, your cute little animals, and then, more realistic, your country style, but then also an ocean theme. And yeah, it's really up to the individual. There is no right and there is no wrong. And, one way is not better than the other. It just depends on how you want to run your own business, basically. So that's sort of where I'm at with everything. I have no idea what my vlog will be next week, only because I haven't started anything. Hopefully I will get onto some crocheting this week. Yeah, guys, I've got no idea. And I'm also thinking I just need a little bit of downtime. I've been pretty intense with the crocheting for quite a few months now. And so, just a little bit of downtime, even though you don't think that you're processing and pondering stuff, there's always, well, for me anyway, there is always something ticking over in the back of my mind, whether I'm aware of it or not. So yeah, next week might even be something a little bit different. I do have a few ideas on what I would like to do. It will just depend on whether or not I can find the things that I need to be able to do it. But yeah, I reckon I'm going to leave it there. I don't really have anything to add. Yeah, I'm in a really cruisy mood, but I have been on the computer all morning doing podcasts, so my brain is also a little bit blur. So guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week. Really appreciate all your support. Hopefully I'll have a few more conversations with everyone down below. That is one thing. Hey guys, I have just loved the interactions and getting to know everyone down below in the comments over the last week. That's just been awesome. And Kim up in Sydney, my dad's birthday today. All right, everyone, my dad turned 91 today. So I rang him this morning. That was how I started my day. I rang him this morning. He is up at Nagambie in Queensland. He's going to be there for probably the next, I would say 6 weeks, because he'll hang out around Nagambie until the Nagambie Music Festival. And then after the music festival, he will head off. And, that festival, I think it's like the second weekend in September or something like that. But yeah, so, my dad's 91st birthday. Last year I did say to him, oh, Dad, this time last year, like when he turned 90, we were all at Serena up in Queensland. And Dad came across to Serena, so I actually got to spend his 90th with him last year. And said to him, oh, I cooked you a lamb roast for tea last year, Dad. And he's like, yep. And he must have looked at the time, because he said to me, this time last year, he said, I was just climbing into the cane harvester. Because last year Wicco and I worked on the sugar cane at Serena. So Wicco did the cane haul out. So he was driving tractors and he was basically carting all the cane from, in the paddocks where they cut it, and then he would cart it to the sidings where the trains would come through and pick up all the bins, and then the trains take all the sugar cane back to the mill. And I worked actually in the sugar mill. So I worked on the locos, I was on the trains, and I worked as a driver's assistant. And it was the most awesome job. Like, I loved that job. It was so much fun. So my job was to basically, because it's still all old school, where if you're going along and you need to change tracks, you have to actually manually swap the line over to your new line. So my job would be, as a driver's assistant, as we were coming up, you'd be looking, you go, oh shit, we're on the wrong track. So yeah, I'd jump off the train, I'd scoot up, I'd pull the levers, swap us over onto the other track. Then as the train's coming past, I'd jump back on. So that was all my kind of job. And then I was basically shunting as well. So shunting is just the hooking up and the unhooking of the bins. So when you have your bins all joined up, we actually call them a rake. And so we might have a rake of anything up to 300 bins. Your bins are, how big were they? They were a couple of meters square anyway. I think they were about 3 meters by 3 meters. And so, yeah, you could have 300 of those bins on a rake. And so the driver of the loco, he might be around a corner and he can't even see what he's backing into. And my job as the driver's assistant was I would be there at the start of the rake, and I am basically calling him in. I'm counting him down until he's about to hook up, so that, we just have a nice gentle connection, and he's not ramming the bins and sending all the bins down. Yeah, I'd hook the bins up and then, pull all the sprags out, that the wheel chocks that are under the bins, pull all those out, and then jump back on the train. And yeah, it was just a really good job. I loved it. So you were always with the same driver, they had you teamed up so that you became a good team. And quite clearly, how much fun you have depends on the personality of your co-worker. But my driver had a really good sense of humour. He was a lot of fun. And we pretty much you did 12-hour shifts. We pretty much just spent 12 hours laughing. So yeah, so we were all at Serena. Anyway, sorry guys, off on another tangent yet again. So yeah, we were all at Serena and I got to spend Dad's 90th birthday with him, which was pretty special. Alrighty guys, I am definitely going this time, okay? No more false goodbyes, no more anything like that. I'm out of here. Have a great week. Thank you so much for watching and supporting, and take care. See you next week, guys. Bye.